Google slideshow on it?
I can.
Okay, wonderful, good. Okay.
I think all you need to do is start the slides. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you.
Not a problem. I'm the ISTA technology guy, so I was just jumping in to help.
Oh, now I gotta get to the very beginning. Yeah. Let's advance through everything. Oh, thank you for your patience. Well, welcome to Escape Room. This is the concept. It's not an actual escape room that you can use. I am a high school English teacher. I teach 9th grade English to what we call students who are not on an academic track. And I also teach 7th and 8th grade exploratory Latin. It's more of a specials class. It's just getting them a taste of a foreign language, and we're on a rotation basis. So I don't spend a lot of time teaching a lot of the language, but I do teach the vocabulary and getting them prepped for some English derivatives. I teach in a rural school area in Southwest School Corporation in Sullivan, Indiana. Sullivan is located between Terre Haute and Vincennes, if you are familiar with that section of the Indiana map. And and I'll come back to this, if you would need to ask me any questions later on that we're not able to get to through the presentation, then feel free to contact me and I will be willing to answer any questions you might have or share any materials. My goals with this is how to make your administrator believe you are the greatest thing next to sliced bread, how to trick your kiddos into learning without their knowing they are learning, and how to engage your students without breaking your bank account or your clock. And then here are our challenges. Our profession has been vilified and demonized over the years. And I think maybe with the first waves of COVID and the shutdowns, we were recognized as heroes to a certain extent, not like the healthcare heroes, obviously, but we were given a little bit of hero status. And then when we started back up to school last fall and even this fall, we're back to being the worst people ever to a certain extent, or it feels like that some days. I know we're not, but it does feel that way. The other challenge that we come is that it's entitlement daily from multiple avenues. Students have been raised to expect immediate results, and it seems that everyone gets a trophy has now been translated to everyone gets an A. The other challenge is here is a small section of my most recent evaluation. And that is a challenge itself. You'll notice that there's the improvement necessary. We hate to see those. I mean, overall, I will tell you that I did get highly effectives and effectives, but still noticing this one improvement necessary. Here we were at 1013. Students aren't they appear to be actively listening, but when it comes to time for participation are disinterested in engaging. That is a student behavior. How can I change that? How can I work with that? And you'll notice that by adding in some of the techniques that I'm going to talk about today, I was able to flip that around in 4 minutes and get to an effective rating and into some highly effective ratings as well. Where I came up with this is I had been to multiple teacher trainings and conferences, and I've sat in escape rooms, and they were all cool. They were neat. They were engaging, and I would love to have put it into my classroom, but I knew that I just didn't have enough time to put all of those, put an escape room into my classroom. But how could I use some of the concepts? How could I use some of the tips, the tools, the things that made those escape rooms engaging? How could I put part of that into my curriculum and still meet curriculum, but also engage students? So this is what I came up with. I started researching escape rooms and looked for their characteristics. There are 8 characteristics of an escape room. There's that trapped feeling that adds to the adventure, if you will. The social atmosphere, that groups are working together, the team aspect. Um, there are time limits involved in escape room. It is challenging, working out puzzles, figuring things out. And of course, that leads into the puzzle solving. There is a progressive element to escape rooms and the storytelling and adventure. So we're going to look at each of these characteristics and talk about how we can incorporate that into our curriculum, whether you are language arts, whether you're science, whether you're social studies. If you just want to take a small tip or tool and apply just it in a small section, you don't want to put an entire escape room into your curriculum, you can look at these characteristics and tweak your lessons a little bit. The other thing to think about is the potential for achievement. Our kids are looking for immediate results, and sometimes, especially in the language arts classrooms, when it comes to reading their writing and evaluating it and giving them authentic evaluation, it takes time, and they don't want that time. So if there are certain things that we can do to kind of give them a little bit of feedback while we can buy ourselves some time, that helps as well. So it's more than just a grade. We can think of it in terms of giving some bonus points for achievement. Gold Pride Bucks, that's the name of our PBIS reward system that we have. Our school is known as the Sullivan Golden Arrows. So our Pride Bucks, and yes, we are a high school. I know that there aren't very many high schools that continue that kind of a reward system. We talk about that more of being a middle school and elementary, but we have used it corporation wide. Each of our schools has its own name for their bucks. And being in 2 schools, I find myself using the terms interchangeably, and the kids sometimes look at me crazy, like, what are you talking about, Flaff? At our high school, it's the Gold Pride, or it's the GPBs or the Gold Pride Bucks, and at our middle school, it's called MAD dollars, and MAD stands for making a difference. So providing those bucks, I know that there are some classrooms that have their own buck system of some sort. I've noticed that some kids are motivated just to be able to brag that their team won or that they were the best at such and such activity. You could have a classroom trophy that gets passed around from team to team, treats, candy, of course. And what I do, I have hugs that I use. Hugs are special. Those are the little drink hugs. And I buy them at Walmart, get a big box of 20 of them. And I use them for birthdays. So each person gets one throughout the year. And those who have birthdays during the summer or on breaks, I let them pick a fake birthday, and so I give them a drink. But I've also used the hugs as a special prize to whatever the activity is, the winners or such, and the hugs become part of the prize. And again, they see that as a special opportunity to get one just beyond their birthday. So to get the trapped feeling, there are different things that you can do. It's simple as closing the classroom door. That's probably most everybody's beginning of class, especially with safety, and that's almost a requirement for some schools. So close the door and you create your scenario as it pertains to your lesson or unit theme. You can purchase some kits from Amazon, Teacher Pay Teachers. But like I said in my intro, I got to the point where I just didn't want to do an escape room for the entire class, but I wanted to be able to put some of these characteristics in. So just closing the door can start it all. Our students liked to be social. And I know that with COVID policies that you have to be careful with how you do this. So you could think of breakout rooms if you have to be totally isolated, or you could in masking situations, and then contact tracing. Just be very careful with your teams, that your teams are always the same groups, if at all, if you get to do that. In our school system, we are able to do some teamwork as long as we are able to contact trace. So that puts us into more of a teacher signed situation. At the time that I created this slideshow, we were able to have some students do student selected teams. So, just whatever is necessary for your particular situation. You need to put some time limits. If, of course, if it's an all class, you've got your, however your class period is, we have 45-minute periods. The time limits could be, maybe you only want to give them 10 minutes on this particular part of the assignment, maybe only 5 minutes. And there are times that I'm not sure exactly how much time we need. So I guess, and then I tell my students that we have 5 FLAF minutes to work on this. And 5 FLAF minutes means that it's 5 minutes if we need the 5 minutes, unless I need to change it up. And I can tell by the activity in the class, if kids are starting to get disengaged, then my 5 minutes needs to be 3.5 instead of 5. Or if I can tell that my kids need more time, 5 minutes can become 10 minutes or 15 if that is what is needed by the students. Most kids aren't paying attention if they are engaged. They really don't know how much time has really passed. So you can work with your time limits a little bit. But have something in mind how long you want a particular section of your assignment to take. Then you start your challenge or your puzzle, and it's content specific. These are your learning, your objectives, your standards based activities that you want to get across to your kids or you want them to do. And this also, depending on what you have going on in this section of the lesson, is going to determine how much time you think your students might need. I've got some examples that I've used for English language arts. I've also got some of my foreign language examples that I've put in there. But I've used some character analysis, and I've taken, here's their rubric and their assignment sheet. This is what you're doing. We are looking at the characters of the Odyssey, and each team is given a different character, and they work through this. And this is the challenge. This is challenge 1. This is challenge 2. This is challenge 3, 4, and 5. And they have to meet each of these sections. They have to get it done and done right. I have to check it off before they can move on to the next. And then ultimately, if your team gets all 5 checked off, and then you're the winner. And I've had some groups come to me where they've, like in the very first section, decorate your silhouette. They put eyeballs and a smile and came to me and said, here we are, we've got it done. I've looked at it. Immediate feedback. Nope, that's not good enough. You need to go back to your seat, read through the selection on these pages, and give me more detail. And so it's a race for time. It's a race to get accurate information. It's a race to be the best. So they are engaged. They are working on it. And then when they get this one done, they can move on to the next. I've also done this very same assignment where all they had to do is pick one of they didn't have to go in order. They could move around whatever they wanted to do first. And then they had to have, each step had to be checked off, whichever way they started. So this is a way that you could take the very same thing that you've done in class. I've done this before years ago, and gave them as much time as they needed, 1 or 2 class periods. Actually, it shouldn't have taken 2 class periods, but I couldn't get them to get the work done. But when I put the exact time limits on and broke it down into chunks and put them into teams, that I saw that they were becoming more and more engaged, and they were actually doing what they needed to do and doing it fairly in a timely manner. So that's the important aspect too. If we don't have these timelines, they just don't seem to know how to manage their time. And that is an important behavior, not only for just my classroom in general, but for all classrooms, period, life in general. They just don't seem to know how to manage time. I've used Venn diagram in this particular type of engagement activity. We watched a video version of a short story. It was called The Most Dangerous Game. And the film adaptation is from the 1930s, I believe. And it is, there are some similarities and some differences. So I put them in two partners, and they were to pretend that they were, and so this is the role playing part, where they were to pretend that they were filmmakers, and they had this text, and what were the similarities and what were the differences, and basically the purpose behind that. Why did the filmmakers make some differences and some changes? So you could use a Venn diagram as your puzzle. It doesn't seem very puzzling or challenging, but when there are time limits, if they get to work together with a partner or teammate, sometimes it gets them to the point where they're actually doing some work. A couple others that I've done, even this semester, the short story guide. We read the story, The Cask of Amontillado, and they had to, in this top box, give me 6 of the 8 before they could move on. We did this right around Halloween time, so I had some Halloween candy to give away as a prize, and just focusing on this top section. I didn't want to worry about the bottom section, but I wanted to get them thinking about the story and giving some ideas about the setting. What did Poe put in for the time, for geography? And of course, there was a lot of setup. And this is the actual assignment that I used when my administrator was in to observe me. And so in talking through the setup and explaining how we're going to do this and giving them some background information about setting, that's where they were actively listening, but weren't necessarily engaged. So at the point that we started the activity, I believe it was about 8 minutes. She timed it for me, and my administrator did. I could see in my evaluation marks how long it took to do this. She recognized that they became active, they became engaged, and they were working towards getting that Halloween candy on my desk. And again, I know that there are some school corporations where they have, we went through that period of time a few years ago where we could not give anything, like any candy of any sort. And our administration has relaxed on that a little bit. We still have to be very careful, obviously, with COVID policies as well, is everything that individualized, and but they have backed off a little bit on those requirements. Then this one, I have not done this yet this year. This is coming up probably in the next month or so. We'll use conflict. Again, you'll notice that's it is curriculum based. These are the things that we have to teach in storytelling and analyzing stories. So it's I think maybe teacher pay teacher, this form may have come from, I can't remember exactly, or there's a workbook that may have been purchased that had all of these templates that we could use. So I've taken them and put them into this slide so that you could see the different kinds of theme and setting and conflict, all things that we have to do in the English language arts classroom. I also looked at what I could do in foreign language. Again, content specific, learning objective, standards based. I had a floor plan of a Roman house, and we had the names in Latin for each of the rooms. And my students were expected with a partner to label where these rooms were. And I had some kiddos that came up to me and they had the rooms in English. I said, nope, I don't need it in English. They were working on getting, going too quickly. And I said, nope, I don't need it in English. I need it in Latin. Take it back to your table. So there's the immediate feedback. And I'm looking for mastery of content, and the information has to be accurate. And that time limit to it became effective They weren't wasting their time with putting in garbage, or if they did put garbage, they got that immediate feedback and they went back to their tables to correct it. A similar activity, we got the body parts, fill in the label or fill in the Latin names for the labeled body parts. So there is this puzzle, it's content specific, but it's not, it doesn't waste time. The kids are actually working to figure out where these body parts are. It's also used as a review for a quiz. We did take a quiz a few days after this. So this helped, as well as I played a version of Simon Says in Latin. So there were a variety of things to do to engage using the concepts from an escape room. Again, basically the idea behind this is you've got a task and then you break down the steps of your assignment into little chunks. This is puzzle 1, this is puzzle 2, puzzle 3. It doesn't seem like a puzzle, doesn't look like a puzzle, doesn't act like a puzzle to me, but if we use that verbiage, the kids seem to appreciate it as a puzzle and will work for it. So I don't know what the magic is other than, I guess, the terminology that we're using. And again, like with my English classrooms, I've got kids who throw things down on the paper just to see if they can run it by me and to meet that challenge. And if it's not good enough, you cannot go forward. And they spend more time making sure that they do get the answer right before just turning stuff in. I've done this assignment in the past before, and waited till the very end to evaluate what they had, and some had the wrong names in the wrong places. And so if you can do like a little check in using this concept of you've got to have this one done right before you can move on to the next, they seem to spend more time trying to get the right answer instead of trying to just finish it to have something on the page. So this leads us to the progress, making it progressive. The pluses is it's immediate feedback. You don't necessarily have to have a grade yet to put into the grade book, but you can get them back into working on the assignment. Some kids are good with one and done, turn it in. But if there is a challenge to it with a prize other than a grade, they tend to want to do better. So that's where the elimination of poor work comes in. And it also reduces grading time later, because I found myself as an English language arts teacher going through and making so many comments and so many of the same comments. So if I could have them working in small groups and they were challenged and they were engaged, they were competitive against each other. And as each group came to me, I could check off and say, nope, you need to go back and write this one better. Nope, that's not enough details. I need more details. They went back and they were willing to do that revising stage without having been told that it's revising. So that's where it works out for us. The terminology is basically what I changed. I didn't change my expectations. I didn't change it just basically, like I said, just changed the terminology. The curriculum didn't change, the expectations didn't change. They were still doing what they were supposed to do. But I just used the verbiage from escape rooms and games, online gaming that they are accustomed to. One of the last stages is storytelling and adventure. And you can use this characteristic either at the very beginning as you're front loading it. In English language arts, this is easy to do. We can set up the roles. You're a member of Romeo's household. You're a member of Juliet's household. So we can use the story to help us get there. You're a member for the Odyssey in the Cyclops adventure. We can set it up so that they are members of Odysseus's scouting party who gets trapped in Polyphemus's cave. So a variety of things that you can do to front load. When I did the activity with the Venn diagram, I just did a simple, you are a filmmaker, what are you going to do? Or why would you do it this way? So they were looking for those similarities and those differences and being ready to explain why. As far as being able to, after, I mean, there are ways of using storytelling and adventure in that. We talked just briefly about how to do that in the front loading, but how do you do with maybe the final product with the kids being the storytellers or the adventurers? There's the role playing, of course, and then there's Flipgrid. I don't know if you're familiar with Flipgrid or not, but I really love Flipgrid. I'm not successful at getting a lot of engagement yet, but we're working to it. I haven't given up on it. I continue to use Flipgrid. I've done Google Jamboard, Google Docs, and Google Slideshow. Let me stop sharing here and see if I can open up. We're going to try this. See if I can get to sharing the I can get to the links. I've got some open. No, I'll come back to it here in a minute. Our potential for achievement. We'll talk about this first. Bonus points. There's the gold pride bucks, the bragging rights, the classroom trophy. I've kind of already talked about those, the treats, the candy, and the hugs, those drinks that you can bring in. Sometimes just the bragging rights is enough to know that they're the winning team, and that's sufficient. So back to what the appeal is. The appeal is with being trapped, the social atmosphere. If you can put any of these 8 into your lesson, you're building some engagement. You are challenging your students. You're getting what you need out of them without using the terminology that they don't, they are willing to be more receptive to the gaming terminology. What I liked about being able to tailor it is I could go in small sections and still be able to hit what I needed in the curriculum. You could go big. You could go with the canned programs and the escape rooms that are out there. Teacher pay teacher. You could go breakout EDU. They're there. They're already made. You don't have to do that. But I'm the type of person that likes to have a little bit more control. And you never know when something might happen that you have to change on the fly. And those canned programs have a set time limit. What if there is a, fire drill in the middle? Not most of the time, our administrators let us know about those fire drills, but we plan some of the best lessons ever, and something always comes in and messes it up. So if you're doing an escape room that day, there goes your lesson plan, and then you've got to set it up for the next day. And most of the time you can get the kids back, but sometimes it's frustrating. So if you are the creator and you're doing small sections of engagement throughout all of your class period, you have a little bit more of a authority over what's happening. So here's how I begin. I start with those different elements of an escape room and decide which ones I'd really like to add in. And I don't write this down anymore, but I just kind of look through it, do mental notes. How am I going to do this part? How am I going to fill in this trapped element? And like I said earlier, it's just a matter of maybe you just close the door and start the class. It doesn't have to be anything fantastic. It doesn't have to be anything bells and whistles to get their attention. It's just this, here we are. Your social atmosphere, decide, do you want to do this particular assignment as an individual, just the kid, him or herself? So that's something that you need to decide as you are planning on creating an engaging lesson in your class. Or am I going to do this as a partner group? Or do I want 3 kids working together on this? Does it warrant having 3 kids working together? So that is a decision that you make. And then I go to the next one. What are my time limits? How many different activities do I want them to get done in this class period? If there's 5 steps or 5 stages to the assignment, then I break it down into, this is what's going to happen. Maybe the first step is I want them to create a Flipgrid. The Flipgrid is going to probably take, by the time they do all of the research and play around with the technology, that may take 10 minutes. So in my mind, I'm thinking 10 minutes, but of course I give myself a little bit of wiggle room to work through that. And then here's your activities. So activities and time kind of go hand in hand. The progressive aspect, again, what stages do I need them to go in order? Or can I give them a list of activities and say, figure this out? Each stage has to be checked off. You decide where you're going to start and how you're going to get through this, but I have to check off every single step in order for you to be a potential winning team. You have to follow the rules. So I set up my expectations for how they're going to progress through the lesson. Storytelling adventure. Do you want the storytelling to be on your end where you front load it, or do you want their storytelling and their adventure part to be from them? So that's another decision that you make. I just wrote this down, decided, how's this going to be? And then finally, what is the prize? Do I want to give our gold pride bucks, or do I have extra Halloween candy that I need to get rid of? Do I want to make this, particularly if it's an activity that has one winner, do I want to give out the coveted prize of giving them a hug, the drink hug, of course? And the kids love to with the pun. I've had, at the high school level, not very many times has this ever happened, but I've had one kiddo not only want a hug as a drink hug, but has asked for a regular hug too. And so off to the side, gave him a real quick, shoulder squeeze. In my little rural area, I know we could probably get by more easily in other areas, but at least they know that FLAF gives hugs. And so that's been a fun way to kind of let them know that I care without physically touching them, but they get a hug. And you could also do the candy hugs, the little Hershey hugs. That's an awesome way to kind of use the pun, but let them know that you do care. Okay. So we've just got like a couple, 2 or 3 minutes left. So I'm willing to share the time for any questions that you might have. Feel free to ask. Again, my email address is cflaff@swest.k12.in.us. If anybody would like any of these materials, or if you have any questions that you didn't get time to answer in the breakout room. Or any suggestions, any activities that you have done.
Krista, I think you have one question in the chat box.
Thank you. The question was, if we have to follow specific curriculum like we do Go Math, would it work with a lesson like that is already set up? I believe it would, because if you have access to what they're doing beforehand, if there's like stages or steps, you could use that as your activity or as the guide of your activity. I'm not familiar with Go Math, but I'm just assuming, basing my assumptions on if there is a view option that you would be able to go through and say, or if there's stages, if you know that there's a step 1 that they have to complete, you may not know exactly what they're doing, but you do know that you have certain stages. You could say, I want to see the results for stage 1 before you go on to step 2 or stage 2, whatever that might be. So I think what the nice thing about this is it is more user friendly. It does require you to do a little bit of your own makeup, but it can be done.
Get the third ones opened, and hopefully third time's a charm, and we will have them stay open for their entirety. If not, we'll come back and look at each other for a few minutes and then get back into those rooms. I hope that some of you have had some awesome discussions and experiences. As always, please throw things in the chat box. We will also have a survey that'll come following today's event, and we would really appreciate your feedback. That is how we often know who to look for as far as future speakers and sessions to try to get access.
All right, so we've created the breakout rooms. Again, we're running 10 minutes behind, so this session will close at 12:35. And we will come back for brief closing remarks. Is that correct, Angela?
That is certainly what our intentions are.
All right, great. All right, everybody, same as previous, please do not, if you have the ability to close all rooms with a red button, please do not click that button. I'm going to open rooms shortly. If you don't get the pop-up or can't put yourself into a room, please put them in the chat. Thank you so much.